no bad words. Maybe when a girl bakes a pie and she drops it, he says, oh, fiddly-dee. A guy might say shit. That means, I'm sorry I dropped the pie. Has nothing to do with shit. When a guy says bullshit, it means I can't accept what you're saying. Has nothing to do with the shit of a bull. So you've got to understand language, and the language we use every day is subject to interpretation. If you don't understand that, when you say something to somebody, it goes in the head and comes out different. And so you say, that's not what I say. Oh, yes, you did. So when people read the Bible, you open it, and this is what Jesus meant. The other person says, you're wrong. He meant that. The third person says, you're both wrong. He meant this. So you have the Lutheran, the Seventh-day Adventist, the Catholic, only because it's subject to interpretation. If you hope to live in a world that's saner, you have to have a language that has uniform meaning. Is that possible, to develop a language that is not subject to interpretation? Mathematics is not subject to interpretation. Chemistry, when chemists talk, they understand the same symbols all over the world today. And mathematics is similar all over the world. And when it comes to engineering, if engineers talk to each other, they don't say, believe me, this is the strongest metal. They say its tensile strength is so much, torsion strength so much, compression strength. They understand each other. If an engineer designed a bridge that was subject to interpretation, they wouldn't know what size beams to use. And in the Air Force, when you fly airplanes, the language is not subject to interpretation. You couldn't operate anything that makes sense with the everyday language. So, with this everyday language, you have confusion, conflict, disagreement. Scientific language is very different, and politics is very different. Politicians say things people like to hear. That's how you win approval. You got 5 children? How nice. Everything you say is nice. They want to get elected. But scientists do not speak to win approval. There was a time when most people believed the earth was flat. The scientist says, you're a victim of error. Let me show you why and how it's round. And they went on, they didn't say, it's a little round and a little flat. Then you get along with everybody. That is not the business of science, to win approval. You find out that people live near a swamp and there's malaria, you tell them, you try to tell them about malaria. And they say, but my grandmother lived there, my grandfather for years. That's got nothing to do with it. Now today, or I should say a little bit yesterday, they used to pour oil on swamps to keep the mosquito larvae from coming out of the water. But that killed the fish. So they got confused again. So they did something else. They spray poisons on the swamp. That goes down to the water table, but you do get rid of the mosquitoes. It kills all the fish. So really, what do? I'm going to try to tell you what the Venus Project concerns are. Not criticizing the country, but offering positive alternatives to every problem. Instead of having a sign, please drive carefully, slippery when wet, we put abrasive in the highway so it's not slippery when wet. There's a sign, drive carefully, school children crossing. Well, if a mother is driving a car and the kids are fighting in the back, she turns around and says, will you kids stop that? That those few seconds, she can kill people. So what we do is when the kid wants to cross the street, he presses a button and the gate doesn't open until the highway turns up like that, so no car can hit a kid. That's what you really want. Now sometimes people come over to me and say, they're nature lovers. I said, really? Yes, I've been a nature lover all my life. You mean you like hurricanes, earthquakes, all natural. Tornadoes, floods, disease, all natural. No one can be a nature lover if you're honest. There's some aspects you don't like. Big earthquakes kill thousands of people, and if the place is highly dense, hundreds of thousands of people. Hurricanes and tsunamis drown people all over the world. Disease killed, well, the bubonic plague did, half the Earth's population at one time. So don't come off with that, I'm a nature lover. I don't know what you're talking about. So when you meet people and they use words like, this man is good, what does that mean? Does it tell you anything? When a teacher said, that's wrong, those words don't tell you anything. Think about it. If the teacher says, that's not what I told you, that doesn't tell you anything. So in the future, when children spell cat, say with a K, like they do here, perhaps, and if the teacher says that's wrong, the kid doesn't get anything specific. But if you draw a line under it and say very close, it's just this first letter, the K in America that we change to C. But don't say it's wrong. Right, wrong comes from religion. If the kid spells cat with a K and you say we use a C and he draws a C the wrong way, just say much closer, isn't it? But don't say it's wrong because there's no information in that. The language we use when a guy says to a girl, I love you, what the hell does that mean? Not a thing. Nobody ever says that to me. They say things to girls which are fantastic. Hey, you're cute. They would say, hey, Fresco, I love your bald head and your beard. They never say that. So what is our language all about? It's an ancient system of poor communication, subject to interpretation. That's why lawyers exist. They can take language, bend it around, do whatever they want with it, if they're good lawyers. And there's nothing the matter with lawyers, as long as they got their hands in their own pockets. So if you really think about it, think about the world you live in. All your movies are the same story. Who's screwing who? And they call it having an affair. I've been to over 100 restrooms and never found a place to rest. They can't even talk about the world of reality. All your newspapers are slanted toward the established culture, the culture that made people successful. So they keep it that way. Politicians are not elected to change things. They're there to keep things as they are. And all nations do that. You're a patriotic American. I'm Irish and I'm proud of it. I'm Italiano, I'm proud of Italy. See? So all that stuff separates people. And the separation of people has been going on for centuries, and they think it's human nature. It's not. There is no human nature. Even a murderer, serial killers made that way by society. I'm sure you have difficulty with that. But if you're brought up in the South, you say, I'm going to get a nigger and hang him up on a tree by his neck. Even that's learned. You inherit no language. The real good proof of that is China. They've been speaking Chinese for thousands of years. No Chinese baby was ever born speaking Chinese without going to school. And they used to think, if you take a Chinese baby and a British baby and bring them to China, the Chinese baby will learn Chinese faster. Not true. It takes the same time. So what you acquire in your environment cannot be passed on except genetic differences, like the shape of your nose, the color of your eyes, that's genetic. But greed, murder, that's usually learned. And if there's brain damage, the person should not be executed. But if you're brought up in the South to hate blacks, Filipinos, Greeks, and Orientals, that isn't you really, it's the influence environment had on you, so why put him in jail? If a guy steals a watch worth $150, fourth crime, he might get 6 years in jail. That's several hundred watches. It's cheaper to give him a watch. Think about it. We put people in jail for 20 years. You feed them and clothe them, medical care. Why not give them a pension? So if kids want to go to college today and they can't afford it, some of them work at night to help pay it off, or they wind up with a debt of $40,000. You want to be a doctor or something like that. Now a doctor in the money system is not always trustable. You can't always trust people, because when he says your kidney has to come out, how do you know he's not trying to pay off a new boat or house? So you see, it's very hard in the monetary system. And also we don't trust each other, because we say sign here. That means you don't trust people.